blue card before we get started. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to start over. Okay. Just do that.
Good evening and welcome to the A&P committee meeting for March 27th, 2025. If you would please rise for the prayer and the pledge, and Reverend Wallace.
Please bow your heads for prayer. Father God, we again just want to say thank you today. Thank you, Father, for just watching over us and protecting us, God. Not only for this day, but this entire week, God. Father, we say thank you. We ask, God, because we know that it's by your grace and your mercy and your divine purpose, God, that we are here tonight. You called us to be here, every single one of us. And Lord, we ask that you would have your way. Guide our hearts and guide our minds, God. And everything that is said and done on this night, that it will follow according to your plan and your purpose, God, and impact our community the way that you have called it to. We give this to you tonight, asking your guidance. Touch every family member here, Lord, and every person here, Lord God. We ask your blessing. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Wallace. Mr. Barrington, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Reverend Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Stonewall?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Dr. Washington? Mr. O'Banion?
Here.
Mr. Pichon? Ms. Karen Hardy McReynolds? Mr. Billy Burrow? Mr. Castile?
Here.
Ms. Ayo?
Here.
Ms. Gay?
Here.
Mr. Tarver? Ms. Fontenot?
Here.
Mr. Natale? Mr. Hardesty?
Here.
All right, sir. You have quorum.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? I was asked to try to do 1 and 2 together, so can I get a motion on 5? That was a motion by Reverend Wallace, second by
That's it.
Cassie. Thank you.
All right, we're talking about notification of school board meetings, broadcasting, and taping of school board meetings. Excuse me. Each school board in the parish with a population of 25,000 or more is required to broadcast live all its proceedings and public meetings, including the school board's committee meetings. Also requiring that sufficient information to enable the public to locate the broadcast for viewing be included in in the notification of the meetings. Broadcast live is defined in the Act as the publicly available distribution of audio and video of a meeting in real or near real time via the internet or television broadcast. So this was the changes to those. It covers one and it covers two. They're kind of tied together. So that's why I want to get those, all at the same time if possible. If anybody has any questions.
Discussion, Mr. Van.
I've already brought it up, and I'm not gonna make a motion, just, ask again if we could look at broadcasting on CGov and, CPSB TV, maybe doing the production.
Yes, sir. We look into it, no problem.
Anybody else? Move along.
Just a quick question. So just for his informational sake, where do we currently broadcast?
It's on YouTube.
On YouTube?
YouTube
So
Live.
we're not on Facebook and
You know, so
something of that nature.
I checked with Ms. Holland before the meeting, just to make sure I was correct. We also are going to check with Tech tomorrow to maybe see about putting a little more information on the website, just so we can make sure people can find it. So
Is there a reason why we do not utilize Facebook or social media streams like we do?
I really don't know the answer to that one.
Anybody else?
Okay, that's your about to answer.
You good?
I'm good.
All right, see no other questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 3, appointment of superintendent.
Right. Number 3, appointment of superintendent. Act 193, revised statute requires that a superintendent's contract include that the superintendent be subject to a performance evaluation by the school board. So that was just a little bit of language that was changed in that policy. So
Any
I think
discussion?
you guys took care of that a few meetings ago.
Got a motion? Motion by Dr. Washington, second by Mr. McKinney. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Number 4, personal records.
All right, personnel records. According to Act 495, the statute now includes that home and personal wireless, the statute now includes that home and personal wireless number, home address, and personal email address of employees are confidential as far as this personnel records in the policy manual GAK.
Can I get a motion? So moved. Motion by Mr. Hardison. Second by Mr. Baumgartner. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Move on to number 5, use of pronouns and given names.
All righty, this is a new statute. It forbids school boards from adopting a policy that provides for inquiry of an employee's pronouns that is inconsistent with the employee's sex, or provides for an inquiry of an employee's name other than the employee's legal name. It also forbids school boards from adopting a policy that provides for an inquiry of the student's pronouns that is inconsistent with the student's sex. Employees shall not be required to address a student by a name other than the student's legal name, or required to use a pronoun that is inconsistent with the student's sex. Other language in the statute includes definitions and disciplinary action which may not be taken against employees and students in regard to this new language.
Can I get a motion? I got a motion by Mr. Evanier.
Second.
Second by Hardison.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gay.
Okay, after this goes to the, general board meeting, it's going to indicate that it was revised with the changes that we're discussing tonight as of, what is it, March 25, April 25? Okay, because I see the last revision was October of 24, so this is considered, a new revision.
This is actually, Ms. Gulfport, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a new policy.
Okay, so it will reflect the being
Yes, sir.
revisited in 25. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I just wonder if they identify as an animal, like a cat or something like that.
Oh, if they did.
You laugh, but we do have some that do.
No, ma'am. Yes,
Trust
sir.
me.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it doesn't specifically say that, but I think with the language, the way it's written, it pretty much tells our teachers out there that, whatever's on the birth certificate, that's what they're gonna go by. So,
My apologies, Mr. Castillo, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what happens, I think it says that the employees can, what happens if the employee decides to call the student by other than their birth name and call them a pronoun?
what happens if they do decide to do that
Correct.
for the child?
I mean, is there something that says that they're not allowed to do that?
No, sir.
If the parent objects to the language being used by a teacher, they have the right, parents together have the right to request that that be addressed. If it's not addressed, the law provides for injunctive relief, damages, and attorney fees for the failure of the school board to enforce the statute.
I can't hear you, Mr. Belfort.
I'm sorry. The statute provides that if a parent or parents complain that a teacher is using a pronoun to address a student other than that on the birth certificate, and that's the original birth certificate, not an amended birth certificate, then the parents can address that to the school board. If the school board doesn't take action to correct it, the parent can file a lawsuit and get damages and attorney fees.
Anybody else? All right, seeing no further discussion, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Number 6, request for a position title change from Director of Career and Technical Education to Administrative Director of Career and Technical Education.
All right, we were asked to bring this to the board to request the reclassification of the Director of Career Tech Education position to Administrative Director. Just want to give you folks a couple of facts, a little history, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Washington. Mr. Dan Bidru was in charge of some music and art and different things quite a few years back. When he retired, Mr. Carl kind of took over some of these duties and roles, and that was around 21-22 school year. Also, for your knowledge, we really couldn't even bring this to a committee meeting or to the board or anything to act on this because when 22-23 year came about, Dr. Van Meter was in the CAO role, and Mr. McCarr would have reported directly to Mr. Van Meter. So we really couldn't do anything at that point with this. Mr. McCarl right now, as far as the position goes, he's career and tech education, which includes counselors, it includes visual and performing arts, including music, art, and theater, 125 plus teachers across all levels, college programs through McNeese State University in Sewell, 150% participation increase. And these programs collectively touch thousands of students, from career exploration and credentialing to advanced art instruction and dual enrollment opportunities. So I just want to give you a little bit of background. There is a document at your places that gives you even more. And as far as the pay that is associated with this, because I figured that might come up in this round of, if we had any questions, moving from the position that he's in now to making him the administrative director, you're looking at, about $4,817 increase if this is done. So, Dr. Washington?
Good afternoon. I requested that this change take place many months ago, and we're just getting to it. But I want to say, first of all, that it has been a procedure of our district when a person assumes the responsibility for multiple departments, and they move from director position to administrative director position. I only remember when I was director of alternative, and I became director also of special education. They combined those two roles rather than hire someone and made that administrative director of special ed. But that's of special ed and alternative. But that's not really why I think we really need to do that. I'm advocating for elevating the current director role of CTE, Visual and Performing Arts and Counseling, because doing so will empower our district to meet the growing demands of today's students and educators, while ensuring these essential disciplines receive the strategic leadership they deserve. We need a visionary leader for critical programs. Our career and technical education, arts and counseling represent the foundation of a well-rounded education, equipping students with vital skills for their future. Elevating this role ensures that these programs are led by an individual who has the authority to drive innovation, secure resources, and champion their integration into the broader education mission. In an era marked by rapid technological movement, advancement, increasing career readiness expectations, rising mental health concerns, this position must evolve to address these challenges at a strategic level. The administrative director will have the capacity to design forward-thinking initiatives and secure partnerships necessary to keep our programs on the cutting edge. By utilizing them under one administrative director, we can create an ecosystem that nurtures not just our academic and technical growth, but also make sure our students address creativity, emotional well-being, and personal development. This is a rare opportunity to elevate programs that impact the entire student experience. This elevation recognizes the director's proven expertise and leadership, while allowing him to make a broader impact across the district. As an administrative director, he will have the platform to shape district-wide policies, allocate resources effectively, and ensure these disciplines are represented in key decision-making processes. Promoting this role is more than just a structural adjustment. It's a declaration of our organization's values. It sends a message that career readiness, creativity, and mental health are as indispensable as core academics and deserve representation at the highest administrative level. On our paper, he listed there were listed a lot of benefits to the system. I think the time is now. I think the time is, we're ready to move our departments forward, and by moving him from director to administrative director will ensure that this is done.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
I have a couple of
Let me
questions.
get a motion first. Would you like to make the
I
motion?
move that we move the CTE director position to this visual and performing arts position to that of administrative director.
I second it.
Second by Ms. Faulkner. Ms. You have anything to add? No. Ms. Gay?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. How many directors do we currently have? I know elementary, middle, high school, and Mr. McConnell's position, we have 4.
Yeah, you have Dr. Juber with, her position, and then you have high school, middle, and elementary.
Okay.
And said.
So basically, the directors deal with students. All the directors, the positions, the people that hold directors' positions now, they have some kind of contact with,
We're talking about administrative directors.
I'm not talking about that. I want to know what the directors do, because I'm going a little further with this. But they deal primarily with students. Okay, let me ask you, I don't have, should have been playing Mr. McCardle more, even without the position, with all of these duties that he has. But what about, federal programs? Who directs that program?
Mr. Spike.
Okay, well, and we have another director in maintenance, is that right?
I'm not sure if his title is director. It's, maintenance.
What is,
Maintenance supervisor.
okay, maintenance supervisor, so we only have one other employee that deals with students, federal monies, a lot of things that are involved. I don't have a problem with voting for Mr. McConnell, but I also think we should put into consideration Mr. Spikes, because Mr. McConnell deals with programs, but Mr. Spikes has to deal with that federal money and make sure everything is in place. Then we will have administrative directors across the board. So I would like to make an amendment to add Mr. Spikes, and then all of our departments will be led by administrative directors. Who reports to the directors
Who reports to the director?
currently?
Who's like Ms. Russell is the director of elementary curriculum.
Okay,
She's over all the principals.
okay, the principals report to her. Middle schools, they report to, Mr. Clanton.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, all right?
Well, I'd like to put another name in and let us vote on 2, Mr. McConnell and Mr. Spikes, who handles all federal programs, and everybody has to go through him. Every school has to go through him when they need information about federal programs.
All right, so we got an amendment. I need to have all the names. Can you read that out again so we can get on the record?
I'd like to make an amendment that we include Mr. Spikes and Mr. McConnell as administrative assistants. The administrative directors, I'm sorry.
Need a second? We have a second. Reverend Wallace. All right, discussion on the amendment. Reverend Wallace, you have anything? Mr. Irvin Wallace was next. I'm gonna go ahead and let him, since he's second, go ahead and speak. On the amendment.
On the amendment.
On the amendment.
And just with that, I mean, because I wanted to make sure to be able to speak on it. But I am never in opposition of anyone or any elevation for whether it's our students, faculty, our teachers, our administrators, whomever. But I do concur with Mrs. Gay in saying we cannot be impartial. Because if we're going to do it for one, then we need to take and make a strong evaluation of each department that has directors, not administrative directors, because when I think about it, a number of directors, their direct report is one of the top tier leaders. I know that when you think about it, some of them go straight from either the COO, CFO, or the CAO. And so if we are going to do it for one, then we have to make sure that we're not impartial to others that may hold the same responsibility or same level of responsibility as the one that we are currently discussing today. And so basically being fair across the board. And my question is that are we willing to do that? Are we willing to say today that we are going to make sure that each one of the directors who hold the responsibility at the level maybe of what we see here will make sure to get an evaluation of whether or not their responsibilities equate to them being elevated to administrative director. And so we're going to do it for one. We have to do it for others. And so I don't think it would be wise to leave this meeting today and not do that.
If that's what the board wishes, we'll do a deep dive across the board and see where everybody, see where everyone is.
Mr. O'Banion?
Yeah, I'm not gonna, on the amendment, I'm not gonna say I'm opposed, but I think we need more information on individuals. I mean, we have some on this one, maybe we need to take it, bring it up, when we have more information, but we'll vote on it then.
For the sake of clarity,
Yeah.
just for the sake of clarity, just give you a small list of people who are listed as directors in the parish, okay? We have Mr. Spikes, who's Director of Federal Programs. We have the Director of Sales Tax, Warehouse Director, Food Service Director, Accounting Director, Director of Internal Auditing, Transportation Director. So when we're using this term director, okay, it's going to cut across the spectrum of a lot of people we have around here. So just to give you an idea of the different types of directors that we have. So just to give you all that information. So I appreciate her request, but this may have a further reaching effect than you guys may be intending to start off with. So just give you, and that may be not be an all-inclusive list. That's just the ones that come right to me.
Is there a few more folks that we would need to look at that aren't even classified as directors that have taken on roles over the past few years? Because we have been, Ms. Ayo, I apologize, we have been told that we're top heavy, so we've absorbed and distributed jobs, and people have picked those up. So even folks that are in the supervisory roles might be, depending on how we go about this, might be elevated to something a little bit higher. But I think if like Mr. O'Banion said, we look across the board, we see who's out there, and we bring this to you folks, and y'all make the decisions, I guess that would be fair.
Mr. Hardison?
Okay. I think our timing is really, really bad on this. We have Lean Frog looking and determining where we need to be on different places. And I don't think we need to make this decision without having that documentation telling us who needs, because in my opinion, if we're gonna do one director, we need to do all of them. Everybody in the parish has picked up more. And this could turn into a way bigger issue going down the road, because they're gonna say, well, they got more pay, so we want more pay too. Or they got moved up, so we want to get moved up too, however you want to put it. It's tied to money. No matter which way you look at it, it's all tied to money. So I think that we need to let Lean Frog get us the information that we requested and that we're paying for, and then make a decision after we have that on what we want to do going forward. That's all I have.
Still on the amendment, Ms. Thompson?
Mr. Behringer, okay, do you think that that's what we need to do? I mean, do you think that would answer our question to look at leapfrog for this particular situation? I'm just asking. Yes.
I think, like Mr. Hardison said, we paid some money for that company to go in and really do a deep dive into everything that we have. And they have quite a bit of data, and they compared us to comparable school districts. So I think that would be a good place to start and look at this now.
Mr. Castillo?
Yeah, I would agree. Once you start doing one director, you're gonna have a lot of different directors of audit and warehouse and transportation and this and that and under. I don't know, is there like an organizational chart that's out there that we can see?
You know, I want to try to say.
I wish we would have been able to see that organizational chart, prior to this meeting and this discussion here. I think it would have maybe made some things clearer as to who's over who. You know, when I look at CTE, this position here, I look at, you know, my first instinct is it's high school, and then the high school administrative director would be over that person. Put him as the director over these things. So I really need to see an organizational chart, but I also don't want to open up a can of worms and say, okay, this director, whether it was given to him, whether he chose to take them on, whatever the case may be, we're going to, you know, make him an administrative director just because of that. Because, I mean, hey, if so they want to take something else on, you know, if they know that they can get paid or get a different title or whatever. So I agree. I think we need to wait for leapfrog as well. We paid them this money to tell us what we have and where we need to go, and that was the purpose of it. But also, the organizational chart would do me a lot better. And maybe it's something that we look at and decide that this is a position that we need to have as far as in that organizational chart. You know, because I see it as superintendent, CFO, CAO, COO, administrative directors off of that, and then directors off of that. Is how I see an organizational chart. So that's how I see it, and I think we just need to wait. So I want to vote no on the amendment and the original.
I have another meeting next month, folks. If you want me to get the org chart, and if anybody has more questions or anything, I can put it back on the agenda for next month. I'm just throwing that out as a suggestion.
Do we have to vote on this?
I'm gonna go to Dr. Washington. This will start now too. I'm sorry. Would you like to wait or you let her? Okay.
I don't see how changing his title is gonna make him better at his job. Dr. Washington mentioned that it's gonna send out a strong message. I think our message has already been strong, sent out, and I don't see how a name change is gonna make them more effective. I think we're opening up a can of worms. Y'all already know I'm gonna speak up for the teachers. He's taken on more roles, but I also know that so have most of y'all. Y'all have all taken on more roles. And I'm also going to say that the teachers have taken on more roles. You know, you come here every time I pull this mic down, and they're not getting a substantial pay raise. So the timing is awful. Our insurance is going up. We gave them a little bit of money, called it a pay raise, so we have the conflict in that. And then it's like Belinda said, Ms. Gay said, it's not, we're opening up. Like if he gets it, then where does it stop? I'm definitely interested in what Mr. Castile said. I'd like to see a flow chart of how all this works. But I don't see how this is going to make them more effective. I don't think it's fair, and I'm definitely not willing to give someone $4,800 more a year at that time in our budget, regardless of what any world comes back and say. I'm going to be a strong no.
Dr. Washington?
If,
Round two.
I just want to say that it has been almost a year since I first asked that this be done. And I think I asked before the former superintendent left. Again, leapfrog will figure out where we are, but they don't know our procedures. I didn't ask to be administrative director. My superintendent called me and said, so that means I have to make you administrative director. So if we have procedures in place, and it came before the board, and I think everyone approved it. And I understand the timing is bad, but the workload is not decreasing, it continues to increase. So whether, I just think the timing is now. It's like,
Mr. Towns?
Okay, so I think I've got more clarification, and understanding now, from the, we had to look at these too. So, is it my understanding that we have administrative director, elementary and middle and high school, primarily, and we have CFO, okay. And then, so, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I'm not Mr. O'Banion, I'd like to see some type of, flow chart and a little bit more specifics on with some of the duties of everything else. I would think high school probably encompasses more than elementary and middle school just because of the college and career and everything else. So I can see how that's, that Mr. McCarl probably assumed more roles, and so I don't know if we need to either advance him or distribute some of that work to other areas as well. I don't know, I just don't have enough information right now. So I hate to see it fail. So we'll just see how it goes.
Ms. Gaines?
Where does this, director, who does he fall under now? Mr. McCall, who does he fall under now?
He falls under high schools, Mr. Pete.
Okay, so we have an administrative director, and who would he, if he gets this position in the board meeting, then who would be reporting to him? These people that are on the list programs that he have?
Yes, sir.
And who are they reporting to currently?
They report to him now.
They report to him, and then he reports to Mr. Pete?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So he falls under high school, where we already have one administrative director, and this will be second one, and the people on this particular list
Correct.
would be reporting.
And then all of those folks report to the CAA.
Okay, so then who reports to the current administrative assistant? Who's left? Because it seems like Mr. McCall has been doing a lot of people's jobs. So who's left for them to report to the current who's left to report to the current administrative assistant?
Who's left?
Yeah, who's left that's not on this list, of the things that Mr. McCall currently does?
Again, for clarity, as it exists right now, Mr. McCall is director of CTE program. He reports directly to the high school administrative director.
Okay.
If you make his position as administrative director, it simply moves to the side and up, and even with the high school administrative director, he will report directly to the CAO at that point. And everybody that's under Mr. McCall currently stays underneath Mr. McCall.
And that's my question. Who's left for Mr. P? What's left? What programs are left for Mr.
Mr. Pete has all the high schools.
Everything is not CTE.
Yeah.
Okay, but he just has the high schools that will be reporting to him.
He also takes care of LHSA, he's athletic director.
Okay, athletic director, high schools, and what else?
Any complaints that comes in from all our high schools, Mr. Pete
Complaints
handles.
that come. So,
He's in charge of Miss Abear, is right below Mr. Pete,
mhm.
who handles all the curriculum for high schools, but ultimately, Mr. Pete's in charge of that, so he's got quite a bit of this plate as well.
Okay, and I just have one final, question. You almost made me, forget what the question was, and I don't want to have to raise my hand again, but, I might have to, because
We're still on the, and it's kind of gotten a little out of control. That's
Okay.
our fault. We're still on the amendment, and that's okay. It's good discussion. So on the amendment, who we have next? Mr. O'Banion?
I think Mr. Moore clarified
Yeah, okay.
that structure.
All right. Any other discussions on the amendment?
Well, it's on the amendment, it's on the whole thing. If
No,
there's
we're
some,
discussing the amendment right now.
well, it's kind of
We're
late.
gonna vote on the amendment.
Oh, we're gonna go on the amendment first and then go back to the other issue?
Correct.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, real brief. I can't support the amendment because you just saw we're trying to make sausage up here. I think Mr. McCall does a great job. But we just proved why we need to look at this thing as a whole. And if we start just adding one or two directors and moving them up, we're gonna be back and another board member's gonna bring another person here, and it's just gonna be a mess. So I cannot support the amendment, so. All right, so on the amendment, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay? Nay. Amendment fails. All right, back to the original motion. Does anybody have anything else to say? Mr. Harrison?
I would like to make a amendment or a motion to table this until we get the information that we're asking for.
I
That
second
Mr.
that.
O'Banion has asked for, that I've asked for.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Harsty. I heard a second somewhere. Ms. Gay,
Second.
do I have a motion and a second? No discussion on what, do we discuss tabling or we don't? No discussion. It's been a while since I've done this, so I'm close.
Can I get clarification? Tell me exactly what you want, or chart and what else?
The lean frog,
Okay.
so we can look at all the directors. If we're gonna talk about directors, but we need to look at all positions, in my opinion, because this is gonna be a never-ending deal if we don't look at all positions. So org chart and
Lean frog stuff.
lean frog, assessment of all positions.
Okay, and do we have to have a unanimous vote to table? No, just move one. Okay, and so no discussion on motion to table. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Two nays. Two nays? Okay, so the original motion fails. And I assume we're gonna see this on the agenda next month. So, thank you. Sure.
I just have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
How do we go about developing this policy for promotion rather than having procedures that may or may not follow the superintendent?
Well, we kind of kick this around a little bit. What's hard about a policy for what we're talking about? With so many different positions and so many different things that certain people do that touch, like we talked about programs and or touch students, but the programs that touch the students in a different way. It's hard to come up with one policy to cover all of that, I guess is what I'm saying. So you really have to look at the individual position and look at what their duties are and kind of go from there. And then at that point, we come to you folks and say, hey, we think this, and y'all say yea or nay. But to create a policy for that, Dr. Washington, I mean, we can kick it around, we can look at it, but it's just gonna be hard throughout the system to have one policy that covers and takes care of everything that you're asking. If that makes sense.
So,
I have thought about it a little bit since our last conversation, you know.
right,
And the more policies and things that you have, the more you kind of pigeonhole yourself into a situation where if you do have something that's just outside of that, you really possibly couldn't take care of. Whereas where we sit now, if we kind of go like we've done it in the past, like in your situation, we can take care of whatever it may be.
I just wanted to be clear because, you know, this is a unique situation.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
very unique.
Yeah.
Typically, the superintendent makes the call,
Mhm.
and in this case, it's not.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
So it's unique, and that's why I think I initiated it because it is such a unique situation.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Let Mr. McCallum, yeah.
Sure, I just one more quick, talk about salary. Or certain positions capped out what they can earn in our school system.
Most are, yes, sir.
Okay, so I know we don't pay the teachers enough, and they get very small amount of increases.
Yes, sir.
For years of service. But at some point, you and I guess directors and administrators are capped out.
I've been capped out for 6 years.
Okay, that's all. Yeah, I just want to, thank you.
Moving on to number 7, updated job descriptions.
This one, hopefully will be pretty easy. There's quite a few job descriptions that we updated. If you look through those, what we did, we had the first batch when school started because we had to take care of those because of Act 311. We took care of the ones we really needed to take care of for school to start. Then we kind of slowed down. We have our second batch that we went through, and we're putting them on a new form that I think looks a little bit better. And so this is our second batch of updated job descriptions for all those areas. And we hope that we're going to have next month, the last batch, to be finished with all however many hundreds of, what's been good, we have gone through these, some positions and, that we had job descriptions for, we don't even have those anymore, so we've been able to get rid of some of that stuff. And then also, like in our maintenance, transportation, and warehouse, and food service departments, when people had to go, take a physical, just a good example, they had to lift a certain amount to be able to perform those job duties. Well, one had 10 pounds, one had 20, one had 50. So we've just kind of come together as a group and made everything pretty much the same across the board, which is going to be good in the long run. So that's just one example of some things that we were able to go through and fix and kind of tweak. So like I said, this is our second batch, and we'll hopefully have one more next month and be done with all the updates. That's it, unless anybody has questions.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
You got it.
I'm sorry. Do you have a question? Oh,
You got it.
I thought it was for information. I'm sorry, I told you, Tim. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, nay? Motion to adjourn. Motion. First motion, passes unanimously. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Hardesty, second by Mr. Daniel. We're gonna take about a few minutes to rearrange everybody before we go on to the next meeting. Everything.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, that's great.
You could be that
We're gonna start the budget committee at 5:55, 4 minutes, guys. If everyone here is plans on, sitting into the meeting, start. It's 5:55. I call the Budget and Fiscal Management Committee meeting to order. Mr. Moore, would you like to call the roll, please?
Mr. Natale. Mr. O'Banion.
Here.
Ms. Ayo. Mr. Bro. Mr. Castillo.
Here.
Ms. Hardy McReynolds. Mr. Pishon. Reverend Wallace.
Here.
Dr. Washington. Mr. Baumgarten.
Here.
Ms. Fonda.
Here.
Mr. Hardesty.
Here.
Mr. Roberts. Ms. Gay.
Here.
Mr. Carver. You have a floor, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore. So we have 3 agenda items meeting. Number 1, 2024, 2025 general fund budget revision. Number 2.
Yes, sir. Budget revision number 2 for 24-25 general fund includes revenues and other sources of funds of $403,883,282, which is an increase of $21,329,008, and expenditures and other uses of funds of $419,568,765, which is an increase of $52,366,468 over the original budget. Some of the major revenue changes are an additional $7.26 million for the mid-year ad valorem tax collection adjustment, which is an increase of $3,958,758 for sales tax adjustment for mid-year, a decrease in MFP of $156,700,000, and an increase in our one-time state stipend and differentiated compensation revenues of $10,211,757. Some of the major expenditure changes are an increase in public information officers' technology supplies, $10,000, an increase in Dino Press supplies, $14,254, an increase in expenditures for student tracking system software, that's $70,515, and an increase in mid-year charter transfer adjustment of $298,896. By far, the biggest adjustment we have is our mid-year salary adjustments, which includes just the normal salary adjustments from the original estimate, also adding in the sales tax supplement we paid out in the fall, state stipends that was provided by the state, differentiated compensation, and a comp stipends, plus any kind of adds and deletes that employees that may have occurred. Total of all that, $31,554.17. All that together leads to general fund budget revision number 2, projects a current deficit of $15,685,183, which is, resulting in a projected unassigned fund balance of $25,684,242, or 6.36% of projected revenues. Next couple of pages kind of go into the detail of some of those things I just talked about. I just talked about the major increases on the first page, but the third page shows you a little bit more detail. Most of the expenditures, not too much to change, and I did make one small mistake here, I think. Yeah, total salary adjustments are $51,944,000, and I had put $31,554,000.
So it's not 30 million, it's 51. It's not 40. So anyway, total expenditure change is 52,366,468. So, and with that, if there are any questions of the detail, I'll let you answer those. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question. You first. He came when I was over nine hours.
Mr. Bettis? It's not a big, public information office needs.
A few different things. She got a new camera, some lighting to go along with that, because some of the video productions that she's doing is much more professional looking and sophisticated. Also, they needed another Mac computer to do all the editing to go along with that, so all that together came up to about 2 grand. She's really getting our names and faces out there.
Oh, she's doing a good job.
Yes, she is.
It's good.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I scanned this, but I didn't read it like I did in the past. I'm gonna ask you one question. Should I be looking for any salary increases as I go through all of this with my magnifying glass? Were there any raises or anything other than what you had on the front page?
There may have been a few of those in there. I don't determine salary increases. When I do this right here, I'm looking at what we spent, and I try to project a 12-month out. I'm not looking at individual things. And so what I do is I look at the way I pull this information out of the system. I can pull the last 8 months of the data, and I take an average of 3 of the most normal months that I have, and then multiply it out by 12, and I get a final number, and I adjust to my original budget projection. So that's how I go about doing it.
Oh,
But it's a little inexact, but that's how I go about it.
oh, okay. So I might find a different.
I'm not saying that there's nothing like that in there. I'm just saying that it's hard to identify.
Okay.
Dr. Washington?
Mr. Bourne,
Yes, ma'am.
you didn't say no, so thank you.
I didn't say no.
On the second page, under item number 1, is it possible to receive a breakdown of the $31,554,017? And by that, I mean the amount that went for sales tax.
Yes, I can break all that down. Fine. Sure.
Okay. And one other question I have, I kind of related to what Ms. Gay asked. Are there any other positions, any other people that were promoted and received a higher salary that's not listed under, I guess it wouldn't be major expenditures?
Is that a general question or a specific question? As a general question, again, the way I do this, I don't look at specific people. I'm looking at general ledger numbers in total. So I'm just taking averages of 3 months, 3 normal looking months in the general ledger system, and essentially annualizing it and then adding supplemental pays at the end. So that's how I get the numbers back to you.
So any position that changed would come from your department, correct?
No, ma'am.
It would.
I don't make salary decisions.
No.
If that's your question.
But they.
I see it after it hits the general ledger, essentially. That's what this is. This is basically what I see after it hits the general, anything that's in the general ledger. If there's any personnel changes, again, you have to ask the personnel side.
Since we were on the topic, can I ask Mr. Barrington?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Davis, are there any other positions that move from one position to another?
So, yes, ma'am. So, after the Leapfrog study, because I know y'all received as a group, right, the Leapfrog study, we did have some positions that I was able to fix that were identified in the Leapfrog study by either adding a supplement, which I'm allowed to do, or shifting within, if the job description has changed in terms of what their job responsibilities are, I can shift that. If they were identified in the Leapfrog study that y'all saw and we all talked about, then I was able to fix maybe 3 or 4 of those. But that, for example, the position that you talked about tonight, I'm not able to speak to and not able to fix. Or I'm sorry. Yeah. Correct. But yes, ma'am, that's correct. So as there are things within the Leapfrog study that I can fix, I'm trying to fix them without having to come to you if it's in my power. But you know, those are minor.
Can you tell us who will get the final Leapfrog?
Yeah. So in addition to the meeting that we've already had, where we kind of identified those positions that we're down in terms of salary, I can tell you that personnel and payroll have been working very closely with Leapfrog to get the new study on teacher salary too, in order to make sure that we are clear with our teacher salary schedule. It is not clear now, and that's one of the first things that happened out of there too, that I can't fix by myself and you can't fix by yourself, and we need to go. We've identified that, and we ought to be able to come to you. It has to be before the next salary schedule comes out. Additionally, with the new salary schedule that y'all approved in terms of the bump, we've already got with them, and we are working on that to where that's updated as well.
I do have 2 questions, and the first one is, you mentioned about adjusting a few positions. Well, who received, or what positions were adjusted and who received?
I know we did, PIO was in the Leapfrog study in terms of pay was not even close.
So that $10,000 is for more than just
No.
technology?
Well, hang on.
No.
No.
That particular $10,000 materials and supplies.
No.
Okay.
So, no, we shifted in terms of that position, as well as a network administrator that was identified as whose job has changed, similar to PIO's job's changed in the past several years. There was a network administrator who was identified in the Leapfrog study as well. And both of those we shifted in terms of job description has changed over the past couple of years in terms of their duties and responsibilities. And so we were able to shift them a little bit in terms of shifting what scale they're on. Additionally, we've had another position that was identified within Leapfrog that we were able to fix with a salary adjustment, just in terms of just a bump.
Another position?
Well, no, not adding a position.
They said another position, I'm sorry, you mentioned a position.
No, yes, sir. So one position that was brought to us in terms of identified within Leapfrog, and then we were able to identify was within, I think within risk management, that we were able to bump that a little bit in order to make it comparable. And again, trying to make decisions based off of the data that y'all saw.
Were there any coordinators positions that maybe, or any positions that move, let's say, from maybe one step to the next, where we're putting in as a director, supervisor, whatever?
Not, well, we would have shifted within the scale. So maybe, for example, I'll give you an example with
and if it was, this was Leapfrog saying that these people should
Yep.
not,
Roger
they
that.
should skip one.
Well, this was Leapfrog saying that these people are paid well below what they should be. And so, for example, if you remember at the end of the Leapfrog meetings, we went through and we've got several different positions. These are not being paid where they need to be. And so those are the ones we figured we'd start acting on first if we can. So there are some ways we can fix things without having to have to get y'all into the minutia, and there are other ways that we can. So and tonight was a good example of one of the ways we can.
But based upon the Leapfrog report,
yep,
you know, it was under, I guess, my understanding that we would receive it, and we did. When we sat with them, they showed us and told us, and it was very thorough. But before we begin any action towards it, that we receive a listing of, this is what we're gonna do with this position to this position.
And
I
I,
understand that, and this is just in general, not personal. But however, you know, with those and us understanding, we sit with Lean Frog so that we can see as a board, hey, this is where we need action, and we agreed upon, hey, well, why is it that we're not informed? This is the steps we're taking with what Lean Frog report.
Roger that. Like I said, I knew that there were some things that I could fix, you know, just within the ability that I have as superintendent to fix. And so that's what I went about.
Can you provide the full list?
I can, roger that.
Yeah. And so what determines that though? Like those particular.
Like I said, I went off the Lean Frog list, and then to bring them with what the Lean Frog said was gonna be where we needed to be in terms of comparable pay.
And here's where I am on, because, you know, we want to make sure that we provide, like I said before, we're not impartial, that we provide equity. We can't pick some from the list and adjust their salaries, and others that possibly can,
No.
they aren't.
Agreed.
And so
Agreed.
this is just in general, not personal, but I just want to make sure that when we set in with that meeting with Lean Frog, because I'm waiting for a report, and then also a report that comes back to us. And I know that there are things that have to be adjusted, but that says, hey, this is what we're looking at, these are the positions we're looking at adjusting. Because if I have someone call me and say, hey, why did such and such get a raise or a bump up? And I'm in the same boat as them, but I didn't. Or I have the same.
And I understand that. Yes, sir.
Description and title, and I didn't.
Yes, sir. And I understand that. Like I said, I was trying to make decisions based off of what the Lean Frog study said, and then also making the decisions in terms of the things that I had the power to do, in terms of, you know.
And that was all of them that you have the power to do. That's what I'm indicating. As superintendent, not as an individual.
Correct.
Not personal.
Correct.
But as a superintendent, that was all positions that you may have.
Correct. Yes, sir. And like I said, we looked at positions in terms of how low they were in Lean Frog compared to where they should have been.
Okay, now can we receive a list of all of those names?
You certainly can. Roger that.
Even though it's by policy, obviously an authority, you have the authority.
You
But
got
it would be good to know.
You'll have
it. It's a question. And I do have another question, or actually, yeah, a question. On page 18 of 30 in our, I guess this is a packet here, yeah. Oh, when do you think we can receive that list of names? Now, is it complete, or are there other names?
We're still,
Not really names.
still working, but apparently I'm just gonna hold. I'm just gonna hold everything and, yeah, no factor. But I'll get you a list very soon.
Okay, of those that have already been adjusted?
Yeah,
As
and you
well
want
as
the ones that we're considering as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, giddy up.
Okay, all right. But also here on page 18 and 30, this is just an explanation, because I don't understand it, I'm not sure. But under personnel, at the bottom of the page, personnel, human resources services, it says salary for compliance officer. Yeah, see that in 18 and 30. Like, is that more than one per person? Because that is pretty high.
Yes, that's more than one person.
Okay, so how many?
I don't know.
How many compliance officers do we currently have? I know of one, but how many do we have?
I mean, based on the amounts there, that's probably.
That's 254 and 22, 23,
That's
24.
probably at least 3 people. It's probably at least 3 people.
Are we sure it's 3 people?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't
I
know.
can find out. I mean, I don't.
I'm hoping like,
I'm
even if
very
there's 2
interested
people or
in
3
it.
people, that's pretty high.
I will find out.
So, and that's I think, but even Dr. Washington and others have indicated, I understand
Now,
what comes in.
wait a minute now. When you're asking salary and benefit adjustments.
Let me finish my question.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
But what Dr. Washington was indicating earlier is that, and others, not just Dr. Washington, but others, wanting to make sure that, okay, are there any increases, and did anyone receive any increases? And I understand that because, when we get this a few days, 3 days before the meeting, normally on Thursdays before the Tuesday meeting, there's a lot of questions that go unanswered. And here's my deal, this isn't personal, but when my people call me from the community or individuals within the school system wanting to know, hey, what is this? can you explain this? I want to make sure that I can give them a full answer with integrity and transparency. And so if we have this on here and we don't know if it's 2 or 3 people, there's something wrong with that. We should know.
Well, Reverend Wallace, I can do some more work as far as this paper is concerned.
And it's not personal.
And get, I understand that, and get counts of the number of employees associated with each one of those things. But that's not necessarily my goal and intent here in the first place. I have done that years ago and done an account. It takes a lot of extra work for me to do that, but that's not a problem. It can be done, and I understand exactly what you're saying. Okay? But that wasn't my intent here today. I was just doing a budget revision for the information that we already have.
Okay. And so when we ask the questions though in the meetings,
I get
how do we get those answers?
Right, but my point is gonna be, is that if you ask me tonight, I'm not gonna have that information. If you ask me ahead of time, and sometimes I can get the information and have it here, for you so you could ask the question.
Okay, but in this meeting.
But if you ask me here, and I've not done the work to find out what that number is.
But
it's possible for me to-
I understand that.
I can get it.
But we're here to prove this, right?
Yes, sir.
Tonight.
Yes, sir.
So
Or
if
not.
I voted and
If
say,
you don't wanna approve it, then don't approve it.
but, and so it's not a personal thing, I promise you. But it's just the fact of, I want to know. And I think that
And
others
again,
want to know
if
if they
you
are.
can let me know ahead of time, and that you need to know that information, then I can do some work to get there.
Because that, so we don't know in the compliance section, that is, just a question, if there 2 or 3 compliance officers.
I cannot speak to that. You know that.
I'll have to look.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
We have nearly 5,000 employees, so in any given category.
Yeah, it's just that
I'm not
that's
sure
a
how many
significant
people
amount.
are there.
If it's singular, it has compliance officer, which indicates that's one person, they can, you know, do more than a superintendent.
That's just a general description of category. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily indicating.
Maybe we need, I think we talked about it the last time, though, about indicating, maybe putting, yeah, we did, because I was chairman of that committee last year, of this committee. But I did ask, or maybe it did come up about maybe putting, if there are more than 1 employee or personnel that's under that line, that we would put at least 2 or 3, just to kind of indicate that, hey, there's 3 people that makes it salary plus fringe, right? This is including fringe, right?
Well, again, I can add another column that shows the employee count in all these positions, if that's what you want to see. I can do that. Takes a little extra work, but I can do it.
I think I'm done. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. On that, Mr. Warren, on that subject, on this line item, is that salary and benefits, right?
No, this is just a salary. The benefits are all lumped together down further on, so if I put all the benefits associated with all these accounts, this thing would be 5 times as long as it is.
And, if, just for future, you know, these adjustments that are outside of normal steps of the city, I mean, we could just be notified like it says.
Roger that.
Blindsided.
Roger that. That'll happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't want you to have to do any additional work with more paperwork that I would have to read. But when you look at $234,000, if in parentheses next to that, you put 4, I would know immediately to divide that figure by 4. And that is not one salary. But if I look at it and I see $234,000, it's like, well, who's making that much money? More than the superintendent. So just something, a little note to the side when they're really high, like a number like that.
Well, Ms. Gay, I wouldn't know which ones y'all would question, and so to be thorough, I would have to do every category. Again, I can do it, but I'm not gonna try to pick which ones y'all might ask about. So I either do them all or do them.
Well, do them all.
Okay.
Now, if it's $30,000, if one person, if 2 people working in there for $30,000, they need to find another job, because that's $15,000 a piece. But that's all.
I get what you're saying.
We need a motion to approve budget revision number 2. Second. Gordon, his motion is seconded. All in favor, budget revision number 1 approve, number 2 approval, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Moving on to number 2. A, 2A.
school audit report.
Turn it over to Mr. Foster. To make sure he's here.
Good evening, committee members. This is, if you turn to the packets, this is the first packet submission of completed audits for the 2025 calendar year. There are two sections of this submission. The first are the audits which did not have significant deficiencies noted during the course of the testing of these audits. I would like to go ahead and read the audits for the record. Bell City High School, T.S. Cooley Elementary School, LeBlanc Middle School, Maplewood Middle, Sulphur High 9th grade campus, R.W. Vincent Elementary School, and Vinton Elementary School. One thing I'd like to point out is these right here, this is 7 of the 9 total audits. All of these were satisfactory or better. But I did want to point out that there were 2, what I rate 4 out of 5 audits, which are above satisfactory. One is T.S. Cooley Elementary School. Emily Alcock is the principal, Darren E. Lambert is the bookkeeper, as well as Sulphur High 9th grade campus for Miss Catherine Clofus is the principal. And we have a new bookkeeper, Janelle Dugay, very good, but also she replaced Lori Wall. And lastly, I would like to just make a special note of mentioning we had a 5 outstanding audit grade, which is rare. And that goes to R.W. Vincent Elementary School Principal Kristen Brooks and bookkeeper Jason Bowden. And I just wanted to make note of those. Each exhibit on the following pages shows a consolidated snapshot of receipts, expenditures, and transfers for the audit period covered. It's consolidated. We used to have it more broken down, but this is easier to digest. If ever you want a more broken down report, for example, everything that falls under athletics, instructional, et cetera, administrative, I can provide that to you easily. Okay, also I'd like to move to the next packet. Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is for the significant school audit report significant deficiencies. For full transparent of all school finances, we bring you the deficiencies that we grade as significant, which ultimately result in a marginal overall audit grade. Now, this is not the worst. This is not a failing audit grade, but it is considered marginal, and it's because of these significant findings that I'm presenting to you tonight. To obtain a a significant exception is a lack of adherence to regulations, internal controls, school policies and procedures, and/or prudent business practices, which could result in fines, penalties, loss of funds, and/or exposure of school assets. To obtain a marginal grade, at least one significant exception must be noted. Okay, let's see. If the balance of overall audit consists of significant deficiencies and the overall audit grade becomes unsatisfactory, both of the audits received an overall audit grade of 2, which is considered marginal, and immediate school management attention is recommended. Okay, so I would like to go ahead and read those. It pertains to 2 schools, Sulphur High School and M.J. Kaufman Elementary School. The first one with Sulphur High School had to do with some money that we could not locate. For review of the summer school account, it was noted that $5,800 was not deposited in the school checking account. Receipt book entries dated May 29th and 23, ranging from numbers 655072 to 6555090, could not be traced to a daily class receipt form. The school response was noted. The noted finding was provided to the Legislative Auditor's Office, Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office, and the District Attorney's Office, all by me. Internal auditing verified that the employee properly receipted the funds into a receipt book. Also, she stated that the funds were dropped into a locked compartment located in the bookkeeper's office. There's no record of the funds being entered into the school accounting system or deposited in the school checking account. Upon further inquiry, it was noted multiple employees did maintain a key to the compartment. That includes the principal and a couple of clerks and a bookkeeper. A list of the employee names who had access to the compartment had also been provided to the sheriff's office for further investigation. As of today, that's where we have left it. I reached out to the sheriff's department, and they're still conducting their investigation, and they're going to do their inquiries at Sulphur High School. They were supposed to do it last week. And that's where we're at with that. And number two, also with Sulphur High School, per review of the ProStart activities for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years, it was noted that there were 18 instances in which alcohol was purchased with school funds. The alcohol that was purchased was through this ProStart activity that has to do with culinary cooking and whatnot. And I'll read that to you in the response. The principal and the director of career and technical education were notified of the issue on September 5th, 24. Since this was a direct violation of the alcohol drug-free workplace district policy, consider this an emergency to stop this procedure. The principal stated the substitute ingredients will be the only option with recipes going forward. The director of career and tech education said the following: the ProStart culinary program follows a nationally recognized curriculum designed to prepare students for careers in the culinary and hospitality industries. As part of the curriculum, students are introduced to an industry standard techniques, including the use of original ingredients in certain recipes, such as desserts that traditionally call for alcohol to enhance flavor and authenticity. While the use of the ingredients aligns with professional culinary practices, we recognize the need to adhere to district financial policies. Following the internal audit findings and subsequent notifications, adjustments have been implemented to ensure compliance. Effective immediately, all recipes have been modified to use the substitute ingredients that maintain the integrity and educational intent of the dish without the inclusion of alcohol. These changes ensure that students continue to receive high-quality culinary training while fully complying with the district guidelines. We remain committed to providing our students with rigorous industry-relevant instruction while upholding financial accountability. And I reference the control below. Lastly, I'd like to move on to MJ Kaufman Elementary School. And this exception was already brought to you in executive session, but I did want to read to you the school response or where we're at with this right now. The noted finding was provided to the Legislative Auditor's Office, Calhoun Parish Sheriff's Office, and the District Attorney's Office. Also, as I stated earlier, the board was notified in executive session immediately when it occurred as required by state statute. I do want to just go ahead and read the note. The audit was expanded as a result of the finding above. The additional testing shows a total loss from fall fundraisers approximating $9,342.33 from 2019 to present. Also, t-shirt fundraisers show a loss approximating $2,934 for 2022 to 2024. However, the inventory was not maintained for the unsold t-shirts. MJ Kaufman they currently have a clerk that's assisting with bookkeeping functions, and also Ms. Deason, the principal, is fully immersed into the bookkeeping function as well, along with our help until the district attorney makes their decision of what they're doing going forward, so we can replace the position. And that is all I have. I do want to point out in terms of the exhibits and the impact that some of these things have. As you can see, I pretty much added up roughly $12,000 of money that we couldn't account for. MJ Kaufman's ending, our administrative balance is roughly $4,700. The total amount of money in the checking account is approximately $30,000. So you can see that this is a very material exception in terms of how much money they have, as opposed to Sulphur High, which has roughly $158,000 in the administrative fund and 1.2 million in the checking account. So it's relative for sure. And actually, that concludes the audit submission. If you have any questions about any one of these, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. It's information
on
adopt.
Yeah, well, actually, we did acceptance of reports, yes. We need a motion for acceptance.
Second. Second, to accept 2A and B, school audit report and the school audit report for significant deficiencies.
Just have a comment. So, Mr. Foster, one time you were doing this and you had a negative balance in there, so I questioned. So I appreciate you going back and putting an asterisk, grabbing someone put an asterisk there, and explain what that's for. Appreciate it.
Your ad did that for me. No, yes, that is true, and you know, occasionally we do run negative balances, not the overall amount, but certain accounts do from accounts, that sort of thing. It's temporarily negative, but it comes into the positive. And by each year end, fiscal year end, anything that's running even a dollar to the negative, we must have a letter signed off by the administrative director and the principal explaining how they're going to get that out of the negative. We have a pretty rigorous process for that.
Just out of curiosity, on the alcohol issue, how was that purchased and where? I mean,
Well, it was accepted procedure at the school as to use these, the alcohol in these recipes. It wasn't a one-off occurrence. It happened fairly often. But he has two, the person involved has two accounts. One's a class account and the other is a catering pro start account, which is basically what they do is they provide catering services, not to any business or anything. It's usually for like clubs, they did football teams, that sort of thing. And they do that as a fundraiser. So it brings in a lot of money, spends a lot of money, brings in a lot of money. And so that's kind of how they work. But I would say, yeah, I think it was just at a glance, you know, just in our testing periods from 22 to 24, probably about 20 to 25 times in terms of it being purchased. You know. And they vary. It's not just, you know, cooking sherry or that type of thing, or wines. It varies. But our main concern was obviously that it's against the law to have it on campus, and definitely, you know, to purchase it, and also to house it. So that's been taken care of.
yeah, as long as we address that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's hard to make sure all the rum goes in the cake.
That is true. That's true.
Any other questions before we vote? No? All in favor to accept 2A and D? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Paul.
All right, thank you.
3 is information only, a fiscal risk assessment.
Yes, this fiscal risk assessment report is for 23-24. Each year, Bethlehem Department of Education required by Act 7 of 2005 to do a fiscal risk assessment to evaluate the fiscal health of each school system in the state and notify each system of its status related to the elements of the definition of financially at risk. Ultimately, the purpose of Act 7 is to allow the state to be aware of what is happening at the local level in terms of financial issues and to assist in resolving these problems promptly and in the best interest of the school's children in each school system. The assessment consists of 3 phases: maintaining awareness of external conditions encountered by school systems, identifying factors that could lead to weaknesses or problems, and emergency procedures for financially at-risk school systems. Depending on the severity of the risk, phase 3 procedures can range anywhere from simply monitoring the situation to requiring implementation of an emergency action plan. Attached to the annual assessment is the Council Parish School Board for 23-24. Reporting for factor H, submitted annual financial report will occur 59 days late. for the submission. This is not the audit report, this is the end of the year financial report. We were a little late due to some reporting issues we had with Hurricane Laura Fund that needed some reconciling, causing the delay. For factor I, of audit opinion of internal controls and material weakness, we believe to be corrected. In factor R, general fund deficit spending in 1 or 2 of the latest 3 years, it needs improvement. Our response to that on factor R was that the deficit was in fiscal 23 and relatively minor, due in part to the large employee pay supplement. Fiscal 21 and 22 showed surpluses. For all other factors, we are not risk in any category, as shown in the action column, indicating that no action is necessary. And again, that is just informational.
Any questions before we relate to this? So move to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Adjourn. We'll take about 5 minutes and we'll start to see you now. If you have any blue cards, please bring them up. Mr. Harvey, you ready? You ready?
Aging Dr. Washington.
We know she's here. And Ms. Gay's here.
Yes.
All right, I'd like to, call the C&I committee meeting to order. And we can go ahead and have roll call. Mr. Harvey.
All right, Ms. Ayo,
Still here.
Ms. Bonga,
Here.
Ms. Flannery,
Yeah, there too.
Ms. Gay,
Here,
Mr. Hardesty, here, Ms. Hardy B. Reynolds, Mr. Natale, Ms. Albania, here, Mr. Pichon, Dr. Washington.
She's present.
We have a quorum.
All right, moving on to item number 1, textbook adoption.
All right, so for item number 1 in the textbook adoption, I'm going to read the reports. The first report is from Mr. Armister, who is our social studies consultant for high school. On Wednesday, March 12, 2025, the high school social studies adoption committee joined together to activate a formal recommendation for the high school social studies instructional materials to be implemented beginning with the 2025-2026 school year. After 9 votes of the committee, it was a unanimous decision to recommend McGraw Hill instructional materials for world geography, world history, civics, and U.S. history. Consequently, moving forward with the high school department, on March 12, 2025, the high school math adoption committee joined together to actuate a formal recommendation for high school math instructional materials to be implemented beginning with the 2025-2026 school year. After the 11 votes of the committee, it was a unanimous decision to recommend Savas Learning, formerly Envision Math instructional materials for Math Essentials, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. The total cost for the Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 books for 1-year access per student was $146. For 3-year access, price per student was $152. And for 6-year access, price per student was $160. For Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, for the excess beyond the classroom set, the 1-year price was at $52, the 3-year price was at $93, and the 6-year price was at $130. And for the sake of for social studies, the 1-year price per student was $127.32. The 2-year price per student was $140.85. 3-year price per student was $156.24. 4-year price per student was $168.63. The 5-year price per set was $181.86. And lastly, the 6-year price per student was $195.09. Mr. Hardy, speak, I move that we please, accept.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second. Okay, so we have a motion by, Ms. Fontenot and second by Mr. Wallace, or Reverend Wallace. Are there any questions? Okay, Mr. Cassidy.
So what are we doing?
I'm sorry, say again?
I missed it. You said it was a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year.
Yeah, so basically,
So when
when we do textbook adoption, we basically get prices based off per year. That's how the company sends out for materials. So we basically, when we accepted this, textbook adoption is not done every year for this particular concept. So basically, we basically about 6 years out for this particular.
Okay, so we have 6 years, $180-something, whatever. I mean, I know it's different from other.
Yeah, it's different prices.
I just don't know if
We
it's
do
1 year,
about 4
or
hours.
2 years, because you said all 6, the prices for all 6 of them, so I didn't know which one we were actually. So it goes up each year, is what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay, I'm misunderstanding.
Also, for the record, I know, Ms. Armstrong and Ms. Harvey, I do want to thank them for their work. I also want to thank them for allowing, having a diversified committee and having several stakeholders for that committee and making decisions for our students.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Hale?
These book, hard copy books, are these online or?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Is this online materials or is this hard copies or where are we at now?
The textbooks, this is not currently online, but we have had the presentation in the board for probably the last 6 weeks with all the information, and I know the consultants have the information as well.
So we're purchasing books for the students or is this an online material?
That's a good question, let me ask you.
Books and online. Books for kids, there'll be a classroom set, and then they'll have digital access also.
Thanks.
Any other questions? If we have none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Number 2, reconfiguration of Ralph Wilson Elementary and J.J. Johnson Elementary.
All right, so for information purposes, I want to start off by just reminding everyone that the curriculum instruction department is committed to moving all Calhoun Parish students forward on and over in every school, every community, every day. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that all CPSB students graduate life, college, and career ready. I just wanted to remind them before the presentation. So just for history's sake, I do know that there's always been a very tough situation when we started talking about reconfiguring schools. I want to put extra emphasis on the word reconfiguration because we are not by any means recommending to close a school, just reconfiguring schools. So just a little bit of history. We've always, let me say this, in the recent decade, we've had 2 schools in a area that fit each other. And one represented the K2 model, one represented the 3-5 model. The K2 model was John J. Johnson Elementary School, which directly fed the 3-5 model, which is Ralph Wilson Elementary School. Calhoun Parish made a decision long ago to do this on the east side of the river and the west side of the river. I must admit that when it was done to Westwood Elementary and Western Heights Elementary, when I'm in the endeavor work, it actually worked really, really great. But there's many variables as to why it was not successful for John J. Johnson Elementary and for Ralph Wilson Elementary. Variables that this board and this district cannot control. And I'm saying that to say because in order for you to have students inside of the school, you have to have suitable housing. And not just suitable housing, but you have to have affordable housing. And sometimes you have to duck and dodge things that happen in society, like catastrophic events that we cannot control. Thank you.
See, that's why we pay for it. So you have to have those type of events. So moving forward, we've seen, and I'm quite sure everybody has seen that there has been a steady decrease in enrollment at Ralph Wilson Elementary School. This is not by any token saying anything negative about the school administration. They do a phenomenal job. But at the end of the day, I think we got to do what's best for children. And when we do what's best for children, I think it makes sense to come back and reconfigure the school, John J. Johnson and Ralph Wilson Elementary School, making this school one single K-5 school. As you can see through your PowerPoint presentation, you can follow along with me. The purpose of this ultimately is to improve student outcomes. Reconfiguring these 2 schools would allow for the district to be intentional and target and enhance student academic, social, and emotional success by realigning to one single K-5 campus, addressing underperformance. We are dedicated as a CNI team directly led by the elementary department to executing a strategic plan that's designed significantly to enhance the performance of underperforming schools. Our primary focus will be creating an environment that supports both students and educators, ensuring that every child receives the quality education that they truly deserve. As far as promoting equity, all students in this district deserve an opportunity to have access to quality education regardless of their background and regardless of their location or where they live at. And addressing demographic shifts, we must acknowledge that there are many variables, again, as I just stated, that we cannot control. We aim to create a more equitable school population. Again, I just want to reiterate that the reason that we're bringing this is not a cost-saving method. Okay, this is not cost-saving measures by any chance. This is a student-saving measure. So I want you to make sure it's clear. I know we just had a financial discussion
But this endeavor will not save the district money, but it will save our district children. This is some data, and again, I apologize for the description, I didn't realize it was gonna show up like that. But if you can look at the graph, we can see the negative or the downward trend of population between the two schools. So I know one of the questions may be, why are we not moving the students to Ralph Wilson instead of moving the students to John J. Johnson? Well, there's many variables that go into that. First of all, we look at, again, the suitable housing that Calhoun Parish School Board cannot control. There's more affordable housing in that particular area. Sometimes we can consider that low-income housing that would allow our students to not only stay in the neighborhood where they go to school, but at the same time, it's an area that has suitable housing ready right now, not predictable housing. Also, as you all know, you guys passed a bond years ago that resulted in building a brand new school in John J. Johnson. So from a school perspective, the school is in much better shape than Ralph Wilson. Also want to talk about, when you look at the average trend of the numbers, John J. Johnson has showed a steady increase in enrollment, whereas Ralph Wilson has showed a steady decline in enrollment. I also want to reiterate this, that as Ralph holds 3, 4, and 5, Johnson holds K1 and 2. Those students will basically revert back to the same school that they started at, where they went to kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. Moving forward, I also want to answer this question before we finish. I want to make this statement before we finish part one of this. Again, I want to reiterate that this is not a reflection of the school administration. I think this is more of a business decision where we're doing something better for the students, and we're doing something better as far as student saving measures, not cost saving measures. Anybody have any questions in regards to the question?
Yes, I'd just like to make a statement. I wholeheartedly support this reconfiguration. The first reconfiguration, I did not. I was going through cleaning off my desk and I found my talking points from the first configuration. I saw this coming. I was proactive with this. When bonding District 31 passed that bond, I saw the trend then. And I don't even remember the year the bond was passed, but John J. Johnson's highest enrollment at that time was 296 students. They only lost a few. Ralph Wilson had 217 students. Lloyd's number was 202, but that has been a constant decline. My only concern, and I appreciate you, Mr. Harvey, for looking at this data, coming up with a possible solution to keep those schools open. And you said, my only concern is that that building at Ralph Wilson, that those hard-working individuals wanted and passed the bonds when it was passed, remains as a viable facility for children. I think this is an amazing and wonderful idea. And part of the downfall of that was they were separating the old reconfiguration. They were separating younger children from older siblings. We had an issue, and I see Mrs. Collins in the audience, where the bus wouldn't pick up on this side. She and I drove the neighborhood to see that children living right across from each other. Some had to walk, and I'm talking about kindergarten, pre-K students, because the bus couldn't pick them up because they lived on the wrong side of that housing facility. But now I see us going back to the way it was, and I was actually open the new John J. Johnson because I was working then, and it worked out well, and it was a neighborhood school, and the family of children could walk there together before the oldest siblings went to Reno Middle. So I think this is a great idea. I support it wholeheartedly. And once you decide what we're going to do with if this passes, what we're going to do with the Ralph Wilson facility, I'm sure it's going to be something really good because it appears that you put a whole lot of thought into suggesting this, and it is about the children. So I support this. And those are my two schools.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Mr. O'Bannon.
No teachers or staff are being displaced because of the matter.
Well, the thing to think about it is that Ralph Wilson is a 3 through 5. Johnson is a K through 2. So obviously there'll be some openings, but I will say there's just not, they do not have to be transferred to Johnson & Johnson. I believe in giving, as a former principal, I believe in giving the principal the full autonomy to be able to select their own staff. So I'm not saying that we should force Ms. Collins to pick those staff members, even though we can assure, let me say that we will strive to make sure that every certified individual is placed within Dr. Parish School.
Ms. Gay, did you want to make the motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation from the Curriculum and Instruction Committee to reconfigure Johnson and Ralph Wilson Elementary Schools.
Okay, need a second. Okay, so Ms. Gay and Dr. Washington is a second. Any further questions?
Is there more to the presentation?
I'm sorry.
Is there more presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
There is, but it leads to number 2, not number 1. But number 2 will kind of answer the questions that I think is forthcoming.
Okay. Okay, so
I think we need to move on that 1 first, and then go to, or do you guys want to do them together?
Yeah, together.
is it,
One piggybacks on the other, right?
Yes.
Okay. Put them together.
so number, well, we can vote on number 2, or do we want to hear number 3 too?
We can all vote on number 2.
I mean, we have number 3.
I'm sorry, we need number 2 approved first before we can discuss.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is they want to hear number 3.
No. No.
No? Okay. So we're gonna vote on number 2.
Right.
Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to number 3, creation of overage site program.
All right, so bear with me for a second because they might have a little bit of more excitement with this one. And the reason why I say this is I'm passionate about all children, but I think this is a unique population of students that I'm not saying we forgot about, but we need to be more intentional about. So first and foremost, being a resident in the Northern Charles area, I can actually speak to this, that I'm very familiar with the Wilson family. So as we just approved number 2, when we talk about number 3, I think the first thing we need to make clear to the public, to all stakeholders, is that we're not changing the name of the building at Ralph Wilson, formerly Ralph Wilson Elementary School. Instead, I'm asking that we please accept the name of Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities. And I'm saying that because that is going to be the overarching theme of what we're going to be doing inside that building. So again, the name, I'm recommending, I'm not telling anybody, but I'm recommending that we keep the name the same and that we just simply transition into the Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities. Some people may ask, what is that? Something that has been a growing issue in Calcasieu Parish is the amount of overage students. We used to have a program that kind of intentionally targeted that and tried to close the achievement gap, and that program was formerly called the RISE program. That program was disbanded for whatever reasons, but in coming back almost as a RISE 2.0, 3.0, the Center of Opportunities will give students not only in Northern Charles, I want to make that clear, the location will be there, but this center is going to target kids from as far as Bell City all the way across to Stars. It will focus on all Calcasieu Parish School Board students because we do not have an overage population in a certain neighborhood. We have an overage population problem throughout this district. So the purpose of this particular program will be to improve educational outcomes for students who are overage, undercredited, disengaged, or facing special circumstances. Again, I'm reiterating this again. This creates student-saving measures, not necessarily cost-saving measures. The Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities will aim to reduce high school dropouts by intervening in middle school. As school district data indicates that a significant percentage of students who drop out were 2 or more years behind. I've had plenty of discussions with multiple agencies, including the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office, the Marshal's Office, local police departments, governmental agencies, and basically what was highlighted is the necessity for developing and improving, an important initiative. This initiative should aim to transform our students into valuable assets for our communities and not more liabilities. I want to kind of sidestep a little bit, but if we've been paying attention to anything that's happening in current events, we're starting to see a trend. Using my experience as a Calcasieu Parish School Board employee, being the former principal of the Calcasieu Parish Alternative Sites and RISE, I've seen these trends, also leading to my principalship at Washington area. One of the ugly statistics that I have that the LDOE does not measure is that as a former principal of all those sites, I have 37 of my former students who are incarcerated and are never coming home. The trend started because they were 2 or more grade levels behind. This opportunity, this initiative can actually close the achievement gap and will stop these kids from having no choices to limited choices, but coming to a place every single day where they have unlimited opportunities. Moving forward, the mission of the Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities is to promote and enhance post-secondary opportunities that prepare students for keyword life, college, and career readiness. Okay, this will occur through a blended learning approach. Obviously, we are already paying and utilize Edgenuity, so we can utilize that. But let's be honest, these kids are behind. Some of them haven't been diagnosed. Some of them are special needs people, and some of them have a true literacy issue, which means they truly cannot read or comprehend. This will also require a face-to-face approach, because these students, in order to be able to close the gap, we must be hands-on. Our objective is to create a caring and creative environment where students become motivated, disciplined, and productive members of society. Part of the Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities will also be able to aid kids in their social emotional needs, but also partnering with local agencies to be able to give these kids keyword life ready. We understand that these kids are already behind, so we have to be realistic. These are probably not the students who are preparing for Harvard or Yale, but again, we're preparing these students to be more assets in Calcasieu Parish and not liabilities. Some of the program goals, we want to aim to make sure that these students leave this center with equivalent skills and knowledge required for the basic education, and hopefully lead to a certification or credential, which is why it will be critical that our CTE department pushes into this endeavor, because we already have those resources available. We don't have to come and ask for approval or more money or allocations of resources. We're going to use what we have already. Also want to make sure that we're focusing with these kids on catching up and accelerating, focusing on helping the students catch up with their peers and accelerate the learning to ensure that they graduate on time. Also, this Center of Opportunity will focus on improving self-esteem and confidence in our students, as we aim to boost the self-esteem and confidence of overage students by helping them feel valued and capable. I also want to stress the fact of mentorship. We need positive individuals to be able to push into this Center of Opportunities just to give our babies hope. What better people than to utilize ourselves? We don't have to employ more people, but they have many capable people who sit right in this room who are capable of mentoring these students, because at the end of the day, these are the same students that you elected to be advocates for, but these are the same students that we're actually employed to be able to help. And I will say this, being transparent and pointing the finger at myself first, we have not done a great job of being intentional with these particular group of babies. You may ask, what is the target population? This is just an example. But anytime we have students that are 14 or about to turn 14 in the 6th grade, 15 or almost 15 in the 7th grade, and 16 or almost 16 in the 8th grade, this is what leads to our overage population. Another reason why we have to have a sense of urgency. I know there's some people in the high school department that's sitting behind me, but listen to me, the way that the Louisiana Department of Education accountability changes are coming, I'm not going to say we're in trouble, but we need to take this measure to be proactive. Accountability is changing, and as a former high school principal, one of the things that they measure you with or measure you in is graduation rates and index. These are potential zeros that a high school principal, whether it be Sulphur High School, DeQuincy High School, Starks High School, Biddle City High School, Benton High School, Washington Marion High School, Orange High School, we are waiting for zeros to come. And that's a bad feeling, especially as a high school principal, when you are graded and evaluated on how well your students perform.
So I'm asking tonight that after you've already approved the new students we have, and I'm so appreciative of that, I'm asking that you give our babies in Capital Parish an opportunity to experience what we're planning and have planned for the Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities.
Okay, so I need a motion. We have a motion by Reverend Wallace and second by Ms. Abrams. Do we have any questions? Dr. Wallace.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes, ma'am.
will the students work toward, earning a high school diploma, or will they work toward a,
We're shooting for a high school diploma. That's a great question, Dr. Washington. The initial year of this program, we want it to be a program, but the ultimate goal is to transition this to a school where students will be able to graduate, have a high school of their own so they can have a sense of belonging. But also what we're trying to establish is initially to get into the door as a program, but also we want this school to have, we want this program to become a school where you will be exiting from a school within the program. Because in this first year, these students will still be tied to a high school or to a middle school. We want these students to study at the middle school level, so it buys us time before they enter high school with that process. So, the long term, I'm saying long term, within the second year, we hope to apply for the opportunity to make this a true school, so they can exit from this school, similar to how we do in Simon U.
how will you ensure that students will remain long enough to earn a high school diploma? Because if they are 16 in 8th grade, 4 years.
So that's a great point you asked. Again, I hate to kind of be throwing Simon Youth out there, but as you know, because you're the person who actually worked with Simon Youth Foundation, Capital Parish, we plan, you know, like with Simon Youth, we have an opportunity to close the gap much faster than the traditional high school. So students have the opportunity to earn several credits in a short amount of time. That's the plan we have for Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunities. However, we must close the achievement gap first, because one thing we must be intentional about is ensuring that we have at least 2 elementary teachers on this campus. The reason why I'm saying that is because elementary teachers have a direct focus and extensive training on training and teaching students how to read. As a former high school teacher, I'm gonna be honest, we're not the experts at teaching people how to read. So before we close any gap, we have to make sure that these babies have the ability to read. And then to answer your questions and how we want to ensure that happens, it's motivation, it's intentionality. One thing that's going to help us achieve that is because the student to teacher ratio will be extremely low. Right now, we have about 100 over age students that's actually sitting in our school. That number was almost doubled about a year ago. But this is what we have to be cautious of. We moved a lot of students, but the cycle may come back, because just because we bumped you to high school doesn't mean that you're just going to become a Rhodes Scholar and graduate on time. So we plan to extensively motivate these students, empower them in a way, but give them realistic expectations. At the same time, we're not rushing anybody out the door with this program. We want to make sure we take our time. Almost like every kid has an IEP, but I don't want to say it from a deficit standpoint. But we want to make sure we're intentional with every single kid, so that student to teacher ratio and how low it is will help us accomplish that piece.
So these students, because they are still affiliated with middle school, they will be addressing the middle school curriculum?
That's a great question. So it will be a blended curriculum. There will be a little bit of finishing. Obviously, we can't just say bump everybody to high school. So it will be a blended curriculum, but it will be focused on the main core content, which is obviously like English, math, and sciences. The electives will be removed until these kids can actually close the gap in the core content area. And after that, then we will explore the electives to maybe get them on a certain pathway towards graduation.
Will there be a vocational component?
What will be the vocational? So I'm glad you said that. That will be discussed with Mr. Ricardo. Right now, we have a shop that's already ready, as you know, in the old RISE program. So we know that we can venture into some type of construction or journeyman type deal. We also talk with food services and knowing that they have a culinary arts department already at TNI. So we plan to use exactly what we have, but it may be modified because of the type of students that we are. These students are going to be several grades behind level. So we can't expect these kids to go and do grade level appropriate work or be around that type of machinery things, so they just don't have the intellectual ability.
students to be able to go and do it at that time.
For the 16-year-olds,
Uh-huh.
sorry, I have a lot of questions. For the 16-year-olds, will they be able, or have you, thought about or even talked to the ABC school that's
Yes, ma'am.
going to be on Highway 14?
So I didn't, I got permission. Okay, so I'm making sure I got some permission from my boss, I don't want to get rude. But I do want to say this, I'm gonna step outside of being a CAO for a second. But I was a part of a team that was instrumental in bringing that ABC school to the corner of 12th and Highway 14 at Gertrude Memorial. So we've already had conversations with them and partnered with the ABC because logistically, it would make sense to be able to get our kids from there to ABC. We're also planning for the non-traditional school day where kids will arrive at 9 and then depart at 4, because that would help with us with the transportation scheme. We want to create a group platoon for this particular mission. But again, we have what we need already inside of CPSB, but ABC will give us opportunity to get like those NCCR credits and things like that. Again, going back to partnering with these multi-agencies, we've also had conversations with the industries. Again, apprenticeship is really going to be the focus of this. We're not asking for college recruiters to come into the program. We need industrial-based solutions for these particular kids. Something that they can see is realistic, is attainable, and it's something that they can see in the short term, not the long term.
So one final question. If I have a 16-year-old in 8th grade, and I'm not gonna allow, they struggle. That's the reason they're in this position, even with you having, elementary, special ed teachers there. They struggle and they may not be identified. Will you have an option for them other than high school diploma?
We will, obviously we will, yes ma'am, and we have yet to nail that down. So I don't want to sit up here and promise you something that we haven't solidified, but we are exploring all options for all students that will be there. And as soon as we nail that down, I promise you I'll prepare a report to get that to you.
So,
That's okay, that's what we're here for.
so I guess I just have so many questions.
Dr. Washington, we have a couple more that have questions, if you want to, and then we'll go to second round. Okay. Mr. O'Bank.
On the age, I mean, you gave these examples, but is there a maximum age that you think will be there?
Oh, can you repeat that question?
Is there a maximum age you think that'll be?
We don't have a maximum age, that's the whole purpose of it. We expecting kids to come in. We will establish a cutoff at some point for safety measures. But when we say cutoff, we're not going to deny any active CPSD students, we just refer them to one of our partners.
And I mean, I'm sure you have a plan, but just to make sure, you don't have a 20-year-old.
No,
But
sir.
yeah,
We're still gonna get safety first, so we still want to make sure we protect not only the students, but our staff as well. So we still going to continue that partnership that we have with other agencies as well.
Okay. River Walker.
All right, so I have a question, kind of sort of comment though, and a couple of other little comments. First of all, I did motion to support this move here. But first of all, does this decrease the prison to pipeline issue? And you said that earlier, right? Pipeline to prison, excuse me. And so, however, this is vitally important because it addresses a need, and that is pipeline to prison. It addresses a need in our district, not just targeting one particular area, but this is something that addresses a critical need throughout our district. And so I want to commend you and the staff and the superintendent, all of those who work to establish this, because one of the other reasons why that I support this is because we didn't just vote to reconfigure a school and leave a building empty and not know what to do. We have a plan of action here. And I believe that even Rise and Dr. Washington brought this up a couple of years ago. We were asking about it. What happened to it? because we knew the need then. And that same need we knew then, we need now, because it's more critical than ever. And so I'm grateful that we have something to help close the gaps and meet the needs of all students, no matter where they are in our district, in our school district, in our parish. So thank you all very much. That's why I made the initial motion.
So let's get a second. We have a motion.
No.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been second?
Yeah, it's eight.
That was the text. We haven't voted on this one, have we? We're just discussing.
Moved and seconded.
Oh, well, okay, am I next?
You're next.
Okay, I just want to say, I know that you don't have all of the answers tonight. Your goal was to present what you envisioned for the Ralph Wilson, what's the name of it? Okay, so I'm not going to ask you any questions because once we approve this, I know that you're accessible and we can come to you and talk, and there are going to be questions and there are going to be blue cards at the meeting once this is presented to the entire board for a vote. So I'm not going to ask you anything because you've been asked quite a few questions, and I know you're going to go back to your drawing board because now you don't have to anticipate these types of questions. You'll hear them at the next meeting. So I'd like to move.
I want to have a response for you too today, because you're absolutely right. We do not have all the answers tonight for what we are preparing, but I do want to reiterate that we have been in constant communication with Teron Perry, who is over alternative sites for the Louisiana Department of Education. And he has seen our preliminary plan, and he knows that we are following Bulletin 131 to a T. So everything that we do will be aligned with what Louisiana Department of Education requires. We're not reinventing the wheel. This has been done in districts across the state of Louisiana, but I can guarantee you that Calhoun Parish School.
And pretty much everything you need is already in this district. So after saying that, I'd like to move for an adjournment.
Well, we gotta vote on it.
Oh, okay, let's vote on it.
So, Mr. Castillo.
So I appreciate, everything you're doing here. So we're gonna have, yeah, thank you. So we're gonna have additional tutors on the staff there. We're gonna have additional middle school teachers there. We're gonna have some elementary teachers there as well. Are you gonna have counselors there? Are those counselors gonna be staffed there?
Like, so what ideally, and again, this will come back before you guys, we obviously need a principal and an assistant principal. But we also gonna need some people who can focus on the social emotional needs of these children. So that may be a unique position that we come before you because we need to be intentional, and I'm just being honest. We have counselors throughout this district that do a phenomenal job, but we also know that most of the counselors' focus is testing and preparation. We need someone who's gonna focus on actually grooming and reshaping these children from a mental aspect. So the type of positions we're gonna need is gonna be unique, and once we define that, we definitely will come back to you as well.
You mentioned something earlier regarding, some of these kids may have slipped through the cracks, and maybe they need to get tested early enough for something they're not testing yet. From personal experience, I had to fight to get my own child tested, okay? And it took a while. So is there gonna be an effort to get these kids tested, or maybe some kind of learning disability that they have that's never gotten caught?
Exactly. So I'm glad you said that, and I wholeheartedly apologize for that because I hear those sentiments all the time. So when we say be intentional, we have to be intentional with every single kid that we go to, whether that be to get them some type of physical health, mental health, emotional health. We have to make sure that we're intentional. So what that may look like, I've had conversations with other departments on pupil appraisal and things like that. We know we're going to be intentional, but at the same time, some of this help we may have to kind of like outsource to bring in because we can't wait. We already have waited long enough. So saying we will be put on the waiting list to be evaluated, that's not fair to the kids. But I also would say this too, we have to be even more intentional because, excuse me, these kids are not just overage because of
academic deficiencies. They're also overage and behind because of parental engagement and parental support. So I didn't say this earlier, but the Rasmussen Center of Opportunities is not just gonna focus on just the whole child. We're gonna focus on the whole family. This is probably gonna be the first time that CPSB has ever offered the whole family approach as opposed to a wraparound. We haven't engaged the whole wraparound approach in its entirety. That's why I wanted to make sure I made a point to say that we need multi-agencies to make this joint endeavor, because let's just be honest, most of the kids that are coming here, they are probably very familiar with OJJS. They're probably very familiar with our Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office, our Charles Police Department. I'm not saying all of them, but there's a common denominator in a lot of these children. There's also a common denominator that most of them go to a home that's probably not suitable for young children, and they lack support as well. So it's gonna be multi-hands on that. And so to answer that question, my plan, or I'm gonna say our plan, is to be able to approach it. So what we focusing on this child from A to Z, not missing any gaps, because obviously there's enough gaps with this child. So as far as the evaluation process, we plan to be intentional on speeding that up as well.
And also, I think you mentioned, you said your starting time would be 9.
Yes, sir, that's suggested.
Yeah, okay.
Only reason I suggested is because I didn't want to create another problem with transportation. Sure. We know transportation is doing a phenomenal job, and I mean, they have their hands full, but I didn't want to create an initiative that builds a bigger problem. So the suggested time, we have been in communication with Mr. McDonald, that's seeing if that's possible, because again, we're not trying to solve a problem by creating another problem.
I appreciate that. What happens if the student, I mean, can you force the student to go there? What happens if they decide they don't want to go to the Ralph Wilson Center of Opportunity? What happens with
That's a great point. That's a great point. So I don't want to use the word force, but we are going to write this into our pupil progression plan, which again will come before you. That's basically going to reiterate that any kid that is over age based off of the programs that we set forth, like that's going to be the option that you have. I'm not saying the option, but that's where you're going to lead, because we can't continue to allow over age students to exist in our traditional schools. So that's going to be written into the pupil progression plan.
I'm just thinking, you mentioned from Bell City start, from, here to there. You may have, let's say, you may have somebody start, do they want to spend an hour on the bus?
So that's,
what happens, because of that particular child? I don't want to pick on start, but I mean, just the other staff.
so that, again, logistically, that could present a problem, but we've had some things that we've already used in place to prevent that. When I was a former principal of alternative school, we had one alternative school just on this side of the river. It's gonna be a case-by-case situation. I can tell you, when the kid was coming from Starks High School and had to come to the alternative school on Shattuck Street, we had to do some different things, just to make sure it had to be flexible. But at the same time, we must make sure that these kids are going to arrive and depart on CPSB transportation. One, because that site is not suitable for parking. So and again, from a safety measure, we don't want anyone driving there. We're going to use our CPSB transportation. But again, I feel like if we're going to be flexible at this site and we're going to give kids the true opportunities, like we can't let logistics, location where you stay, we just want to amend the right plan for this particular kid. So it may look different. And that's the thing about this center, it's going to have some flexibility. And with that time from 9 to 4, I'm going to be honest with you, the possibilities open more when you extend that time block. And I think the staff is going to have to know that and understand the expectation of the staff that we set for that too.
This deals more with middle school, I see, based on the age and stuff. Will there be any elementary kids that have kind of aging out of elementary school, or
so
greater that is?
That's a great point. So right now, to make sure we don't have a 9-year-old that may be in 2 grades lower with a 17 or 18-year-old. The focus is going to be sort of with middle school right now. I think the elementary department, we have a plan, but at the same time, we're watching the data, because obviously this problem starts probably in early childhood, head start. It grows in elementary, it becomes a big problem in the middle, and by the time we get to high school, it's organized chaos. So right now, we're going to be very cognizant about making sure we're not mixing 9-year-olds with 17-year-olds and things like that. So if they're in the elementary, we won't wait. We're going to wait to address the problem once they hit that 6th grade level.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, any more on round 1? All right, Dr. Washington. The floor is yours. Then you finish.
And I know we don't have all the answers, and we need to just applaud the CNI department for, initiating this, auction for their school. It was truly needed long ago, and it's needed even more so now. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it's a lot to say we're moving, in this direction, but it's a great thing. I just remember in the RISE program, we had, the last year we were there, we had 130 students, 10 teachers, one part-time counselor, and one coordinator, one discipline person, and we made it work. And we were instrumental in the success of that. Will we keep longitudinal data to, and I think Jay asked me a long time ago, how did our students do? I think 90+% of our students graduated from high school. Will we keep longitudinal data to just document the outcome to determine program success?
Oh, absolutely. Our plan as a CNI department is to provide interval assessments and provide up-to-date data. Like every time we have a school board meeting, you will be receiving, if it's not through presentation or it will come through email, you will be conveyed information that's going to give you up-to-date things of what's happening inside the center. It won't just be once a year or every time they have a CNI committee, you will get up-to-date information, because at the end of the day, this is something that's new. So we don't have a perfect plan for it, but we do know that we can pivot along the way as we go.
Okay. Any further questions?
I have a little heavy one.
Okay.
You answered almost everything that I thought of. And I know this is kind of a living, you're gonna be making some adjustments. Is there any other parishes around here that's done this?
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again?
Do we have any other parishes near us that have blazed this trail already? Not sure.
Not like this that I'm aware of.
Well, I'm gonna tell you kudos. If you can save this group of kids, power to you. I'll keep it prayed up. This is a special group and we need you.
Okay.
Done.
Any more questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Now, I need a motion to the.
I'm sorry. I want to first say, I cannot take credit for this. There are several people behind me. I want to thank the entire student department, elementary, middle, high. There's a lot of people in this room, consultants, Mr. Valentine, Dr. Van Meter, Mr. Bourne. I mean, there's been lots of conversations about this, so I can't take full credit for this. There's a lot of people in this room that deserve credit. So again, this is CNI department, it's not one department, it's CNI department.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So, slide number, motion, and was that wrong second on the term? All in favor?